Hi everyone, this is Jason. Welcome back to the channel. Today I sit down with Keith Mackay, creator of EscapeQR, a Lightning Network game. Stay tuned. All right, so Keith, thank you for joining me on this on my channel. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the game you designed, EscapeQR, and also the overall crypto space. We went to Bitcoin 2019 in San Francisco. That's where we met on the crypto bit bus. Shout out to the bit bus.
Yeah.
And we had you showed me some really good things with the Escape QR. So I wanted to ask you, where did you get the idea for the game, and why did you go with Lightning instead of just regular submit your crypto here?
Right. So it was actually kicked off by Crypto Brecky. So, he's a crypto artist and entrepreneur.
Okay.
And the guy's just full of ideas and he's just hungry to have new projects going on in the space. So he just reached out to me and we just brainstormed for like a 2-hour session. And we're talking about all sorts of things like interactive crypto art pieces or gambling sites. We eventually hit on video games. And he's like, "Oh, so could you write a video game?" Like, yeah, but it depends. Like, I'm doing this in my free time. Like we're not making World of Warcraft here.
Right.
Like I got a couple hours a night and weekends to work on this. So, you got to set your ambitions at like, Tetris, Pong,
Right. Yeah.
Qbert,
Yeah.
right? Like 8-bit video gaming.
Right.
Um, and yeah, so we were just throwing ideas around. But we didn't really like get a solid concept. And then like the moment the call ended, because we did talk about like using the blockchain as like a randomization element, like some of the gambling games use
Right.
this, like, oh, this block hash determines, whatever. And I just realized like, yeah, Lightning Network, you get this QR code and I'm thinking 8-bit gaming, like a QR code is like a super simple 8-bit thing to render.
Right. Exactly.
uh, and I just started visualizing it as a maze. I'm like,
Right.
okay, it's the maze, it's the game board, but now what do we do? And then it's kind of simple from there. Like you're navigating the maze, you're breaking down walls, you're trying to find your hidden Bitcoin stacks because
Right.
that's what we care about.
And avoid the dirty fiat.
Exactly, right. You need an enemy. It's like Pac-Man, right?
Like Pac-Man, right? That, in fact, when I first saw it, I was like, "This reminds me of Pac-Man."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, why are there ghosts in Pac-Man? It doesn't
Right.
matter,
It doesn't
but
Right.
yeah. So in our case, it's evil dollar bills trying to
Exactly.
interfere with you.
Yeah. Right. And we all know about that, right?
Right.
All right. So, but what was it? I mean, because it's really easy to play. And in the background, viewers are going to see the actual gameplay on desktop. When you did Lightning Network, was it hard to get the programming for the game to sync up with the Lightning Network, or was it pretty seamless?
Yeah, it was shockingly easy to integrate with the game. And like you had asked earlier, why Lightning Network? For me, I'm just trying to collect experience in as many crypto technologies as possible. So I've done some Solidity smart contracts for Ethereum. I
Right.
started doing some work in EOS, in C++ and writing smart contracts there. Um, and I've got an IOST project queued up coming up next. So
Nice.
I'm just trying to collect pieces and learn from them, compare them, see which ones make sense for which types of projects. And Lightning, I mean, it's the biggest thing happening to Bitcoin in the last couple of years. It's the most important thing happening to Bitcoin in the last couple of years. Um, and so I just had to learn more about it.
Right.
And
Right.
like for me, I can't just like read an article or read a white paper and really
Right.
understand what it's about. Like I need to play with
You
it.
need to play with it, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, and that I'm glad you brought that up, because at the conference there was a Lightning arcade. There was I played pinball with
Yeah.
Lightning, which
Yeah, the
was
Star
pretty
Wars
cool.
pinball.
Yeah. And they also had like stand up, like they had old school Street Fighter 2, right? I mean, come
Yeah.
on, right? Who doesn't love Street Fighter 2? So, and it was it was very interesting. It's kind of odd, right? Because you're used to flipping out a quarter, right? Or today probably $1 or whatever,
Right.
right? And we just broke out our phones, sent over some sats, rock and roll, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That, do you think we'll see more of that? And I think for me, my frustration with the space has been so much emphasis on investors and not enough emphasis on consumers, right? And that's why I dig your game, is because this is for the average person to play a video game,
Right.
right? And as we know from the statistics from Sony, from Microsoft, from Blizzard, a lot of people play video games, probably more than people who invest in stock markets, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we want to go closer down that line, right? As opposed to just focusing on people, like focusing on whales, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? Like expanding games, uh, creating more games based on like what you're doing with the Lightning Network and rolling out crypto adoption that way.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think what one interesting avenue would be, like the Play Store, right? You've got all these, free to play games, but then they're making their money on in-app purchases. But then, Google and Apple are taking 30% of those transactions because it's going through their integrated payment network.
Right.
So for these game developers, it would be super easy to do their in-app purchases through the Lightning Network. At least offer it as an option, right? I mean, they need to monetize. They're not going to be like, oh, we'll live off of the, 5% of Americans that own crypto. Like,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's not going to work. But at least they can offer it. And, they could give people a 20% discount on anything they purchase through Lightning Network because both sides are winning then, right? Like, instead of losing 30% to Google, they're giving 20% back to the customer. So it's a win-win, instant transaction.
Right.
So that's one avenue. But I mean, I struggle with this too. Like, what's going to increase adoption and use cases, right? Like usage as a currency instead of a store value.
Right.
And I think I'm mostly at peace with it. I just don't know if the currency use case is really going to be an important one for the US.
Mm.
Whereas, like, you look at Venezuela and people are trying to shove their worthless bolivars into crypto to preserve their wealth.
Right.
But then once it's in crypto, how do they spend it?
Right.
So for them, yeah, buy up Bitcoin where you can and then transact with Lightning Network. Like,
Right.
it's perfect. It's
Exactly.
free, it's instantaneous. So for them, it makes sense. But in first world countries where like our credit cards work well enough, our bank accounts work well enough,
Right.
it's not perfect. The crypto anarcho-capitalist libertarians,
Right.
say it's not good enough. But I mean, for 99% of Americans, like, we don't care. We're fine with it.
Right.
So yeah, I think.
For our viewers, I want to point out we like our crypto anarchists.
Well, I say that with a little bit of disdain, just because I'm a pragmatist,
Right.
and like I get where they're coming from. I'm sympathetic to it. But I want to live in the real world, and I want to
Right.
build solutions for the real world. I want to have, realistic expectations, and I want to bet my career on, realistic, pragmatic visions for.
Right. And that's what's interesting about what we saw at the conference. You had people using Bitcoin to buy things, like at the store, right? You could buy a t-shirt with Bitcoin. But like you say, that's not really an issue here because our financial system is fairly stable, or even though we might not care for it, but it works.
Right.
Right. I mean, we don't like the idea of third parties, but if I need to go to Costco, I'm not going to have any issues.
Right.
Right. Whereas someone in South Sudan or Venezuela or somewhere that's a little bit more unstable, they might need something that doesn't need to pass through some type of
Yeah.
intermediate.
Or whatever that number is, the like 1.6 billion on the planet that are unbanked.
Right. Yeah. And then that's the other thing, is that the whole unbanked thing I mean, you have a large number of Americans who are living in poverty. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But getting a bank account here isn't as difficult as someone would make it out to be.
Right.
I mean, I can go to any number of banks in my city and probably open an account without any issues. Whereas, I mean, we're living in an area where the nearest bank is 200 miles away. You need something a little bit more feasible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're trading one requirement for another. Like, okay, you can do your banking through crypto and Bitcoin and Lightning Network, or Litecoin, whatever you want to do. But you do still need an internet connection.
Right. Exactly.
And so at least like with the rise of mobile phone networks, that's becoming less and less of a hurdle.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we're not going to reach every single person out in the wilderness who has a stone to sell us.
Right. It's still primarily a first world technology. We're hoping that changes. Maybe Elon can get those satellites up for us. But,
Right.
And right now and I think that's one thing that's, we all talk about adoption, but how much there needs to be a need for the adoption to happen.
Yeah.
Like when the financial market crashed in 2008, there was a need automatically because you had people losing their jobs left and right. Wealth crashed. It was just
the fragility of our system was really exposed.
right. So, and then here comes Satoshi with this idea, and here we are talking about Bitcoin 10 years later, right? And so it's situations like that I think will drive real adoption. I mean, that's like worst case scenario adoption, though. Like, oh crap,
Right.
I gotta buy bread, and they don't take USD anymore, right? So,
yeah.
But how did you like the conference?
It was great, and it was my first crypto conference, so I didn't really know what to expect. The ratio of like super interesting, super cool, like real people to total crazies was not at all what I expected. Like I was expecting like 50-50 or worse of just like total crazies. Like Don with the man,
Right.
everything else.
They were there. They were there.
They were there, sure.
They were there.
But every person I talked to, just like they were coming for their own reasons, and like just really interesting, really enthusiastic.
Right.
I think it helped that it was such a focused topic. Like it was Bitcoin 2019. It wasn't like Bitcoin and friends, Bitcoin and forks. It wasn't, altcoin central. It wasn't, presented by Ripple, right? Like it was, one community that everyone pretty much is pretty in line with.
Well, and that was what I found interesting also. And most importantly for me, what I found interesting is you hear on CNBC and Bloomberg and all these places how there's no diversity in crypto. I'm like, yeah, there is. You guys just need to come out more. I mean, there were you saw a large group of people from different parts of the world coming to one place to talk about one thing, and there were no fights. Right. I mean, come on. The most violent thing there was that guy busting up the ATM machine.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, I'll link it to you. You'll love it. It was. You ever see Reservoir Dogs?
Sure. Okay.
When Michael Madsen was dancing around before he went in on Homeboy, it was that, and he took a sledgehammer to a ATM machine, and I was like, all right.
Yeah. But I was surprised that even like the Bitcoin Cash people weren't there. There was no Bitcoin SV going on.
No. And they came up in some conversation because everyone knows Craig. And
unfortunately.
Craig's issues. And I'm not judging. Hey, Craig, do your thing. Like, hey.
I judge.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So, but it was very civil. Nobody. I mean, you had some of the debates on stage kind of got a little testy, but I think that was more for being passionate about your opinion. It wasn't about you guys are wrong, we're right, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I liked it. I loved it. The guys who put together the Bit Bus, they did a great job, I thought.
Yeah. Props to Stash and
Yeah,
everyone else.
yeah, Stash and Ken and uh, Gaston and all the guys.
Yeah, it was a great
And
time.
yeah, it was good, and I can't wait to do it again. So let's end it there. I really appreciate you doing this with me.
Of course, of
Um,
course.
I'm going to link to the website escapeqr.com. Guys, it's going to be in the description below. Highly recommend you check it out. Um, where can we find you on social media if anyone wants to connect or see what else you have in store?
Sure. I'm at Keith Mukai on Twitter. I feel like I'm one of the few crypto people that aren't, hiding behind a fake name. Like I am me just because like I'm doing this because I'm trying to build my career, and
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I
Me
want
too.
people to know, yeah, like, oh, that Keith Mukai guy, he built that cool thing, and he built
Right.
that cool thing, and we should hire him and pay him lots of money to do
Right.
our cool
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then yeah, give us feedback on the game or bug reports or ideas for improvements at EscapeQR. It's on Twitter at EscapeQR. And yeah, that's it. Let us know what you think about it.
All right. Well, Keith, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Bye.